What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to the Underdog Podcast. Today, I will be completing my power rankings. This is going to be out pretty late. I'm sorry. I just had a really busy day today. So, we're getting to it here. We got our final four teams. Tier 1, our Super Bowl favorites. These are the guys that you're going to want to be placing bets down on winning the Super Bowl. Of course, those other guys in the Super Bowl contenders tier are also good bets, but these are the guys that I would be betting on to win the Super Bowl if I were you. So let's start with my number 4 team here. And that is going to be a team that went to the AFC Championship game last year. It is going to be the Kansas City Chiefs, who, are coming off a season in which they made their third straight AFC Championship game, but could not make it to the Super Bowl, and they're trying to get back there now. So we look at their key departures and additions here. Darrell Williams on his way out here, depth running back, going to the Cardinals, I believe. Tyreek Hill traded to the Miami Dolphins, one of the biggest moves of the offseason. They lose Demarcus Robinson and Byron Pringle as depth receivers. Jerron Reed as probably their second best interior defender on the D-line. They lose Melvin Ingram, who they traded for in the middle of the season. Alex Okafor as well out on the edge there. Anthony Hitchens retires, and they lose some key pieces in the secondary here in Charvarius Ward, Mike Hughes, and Tyrann Mathieu. And then I threw Daniel Sorensen in there just for the memes. Key additions here, they got Isaiah Pacheco, running back from Rutgers. Dynasty League members, pick him up for sure. And then you got Juju Smith-Schuster and Marquez Valdez-Scantling coming in here, along with the drafting of Sky Moore in the second round to help bolster that receiving core. And then they bring in Carlos Dunlap here to kind of replace that Melvin Ingram role. They draft George Karlaftis in the first round out of Purdue. They draft Leo Chenal, who I was very, very high on. Thought he was a first-round caliber player in the third round, I believe. They get Trent McDuffie, trading up with the Patriots, and then they bring over Justin Reed, and they also draft Brian Cook out of Cincinnati. So we head over here to their offense, which I have ranked first overall, starting with the quarterback here. That is second. I think Patrick Mahomes is the second best quarterback in the league. I think there was a little bit of problem last year with him. I think Mahomes sometimes gets in trouble where he drops back like too far into the pocket because he doesn't trust or drops like too far back because he doesn't trust his O-line, or he bails out too early. But overall, Mahomes is one of the best quarterbacks in the league. I mean, his arm talent is second only to Josh Allen, in my opinion. Maybe Aaron Rodgers, but I think that he's probably surpassed Rodgers at this point. He's, I think everybody was really hyping him up to be the next, Tom Brady, but he's only won one, and we'll see how many others he gets. He does have a record contract, so that will probably stagnate that a little bit, so we'll see how they got there. And then you got the veteran there, Chad Henne, who made an awesome play in the playoffs in 2020 against the Browns. But we move on to their running backs here. I have them ranked 29th. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, he had a really promising rookie season, and then last year he was just dealt a really bad hand with injuries and stuff. I'm hoping he can get back to what he was in his rookie year, but imagine if this team took Jonathan Taylor, man. This team would be freaking unstoppable. But Edwards-Helaire, good receiver. I wish they would use him more as a receiver. I feel like they just don't do that enough for Kansas City. They bring in Rojo here, although I think they cut him, but he would have been a nice change of pace back. And then you got Derek Gore, who kind of popped onto the scene last year as a nice change of pace back. And then Pacheco, who could be the team's RB1 by season's end. We'll see there. And then Michael Burton is a relevant fullback alert. Then you go to the weapons. A lot of people really have been talking about the weapons and saying that they're not up to par. I think it's honestly better than it was last year, and that's with Tyreek Hill leaving. So you bring in Juju Smith-Schuster, who is going to play that Sammy Watkins role that Watkins, when Watkins was here, he played. He's just going to be a chain mover. He's going to be a physical presence there at the receiver. Big body guy that they haven't had since Sammy Watkins left. MVS is going to be kind of your Tyreek Hill replacement, essentially. So he's going to be, deep threat. You just hope he can hang onto the ball there. He's going to be probably the guy that tries to take the top off the defense, whereas Sky Moore will probably play more of that Tyreek Hill role where he's actually running routes and then separating away from guys once he has the ball in his hands. Really, really good pick in the second round. He had a phenomenal process leading up to the draft. Really good pro day, really good combine. His tape was really, really good. I thought he was a second-round player, but I would have understood if you took him in the first round. Mecole Hardman then drops to your fourth receiver, where he really was your second. So, and he's just another like gadget-type player. I like Mecole Hardman more in this role because then you can get him schemed up touches, on jet sweeps and jet touch passes and stuff like that. And then behind him, Justin Ross was a guy that I was actually really excited to see, but he, is on injured reserve, which is really tough. Corey Coleman, maybe career resurgence. Justin Watson, another guy who's been kind of dealing with injuries there. And then tight end wise, Travis Kelce. I don't know if he's the best in the game anymore. Just with age, I think I'd probably go Kittle. But he's probably top 2 there. Kelsey's a phenomenal pass catcher. He really uses leverage probably better than anyone at the tight end position, and his route running is very, very good for a guy of that size. He's just not the blocker that like a Kittle is, or a TJ Hawkinson is. Noah Gray behind him, decent backup guy there, along with Blake Bell. Those guys are decent depth at tight end. O-line, I have them ranked 3rd. They're a very, very good unit. Orlando Brown Jr., I think, is probably one of the most overrated players in the league and is asking for just a ridiculous amount of money, an absurd amount of money. He's a fine left tackle. He's probably middle of the pack, but, there's multiple guys I would take over him personally. Joe Tooney is probably one of the best guards in football, one of the only people that can block Aaron Donald one-on-one. If you don't believe me, go watch Super Bowl 53. He did just that. Creed Humphrey, probably the best young center in the game, a top 5 center in the game. I could not believe he lasted till the end of the second round. That was crazy. Trey Smith, really good pickup for them last year in the 6th round, had a blood clot issue, but he is a phenomenal talent there. Mauler in the run game as well. Lucas Niang, solid right tackle. You hope he can develop, but if not, they have Andrew Wiley, Darian Kennard, Jerron Christian, Prince Tega Winogo behind him. They're at tackle. And then Reeder and Darrell Williams there on the inside as well. Offense coaching, I have them first. Andy Reid, I personally think, is the best mind in the game when it comes to offense. They're just phenomenal, and Eric Bieniemy is a very good offense coordinator as well. And I have them for an average rank on offense of 5.68. We move into the defense, which is not as promising here. This is the reason why, if you are lower on the Chiefs, this would be the reason. Overall defense, I have them 19th. Starting with their run defense, which is 20th. I don't think it's bad, personally. George Karlaftis is a good run defender, but he's not elite by any means. He's not a stud there. He's just good. He's got some nice power. He can get off blocks, but he's not, a consistently dominant player there. His effort will help him there, though. Derek Nottie, solid run defender in the middle. Chris Jones is a better pass rusher than a run defender, but he's solid there. Frank Clark is probably the worst run defender there. He's just not really invested in that part of the game. Nick Bolton at linebacker is a very, very good run defender. He's the best run defending linebacker they have. Willie Gay is more of a pass cover guy, but he can be a nice run and chase guy for you there in the run defense. And then either Elijah Lee or Leo Chenal is probably going to play in that 3rd spot, and either of those guys are quality run defenders. Jermaine Carter is probably the best run defender of those 3, but I think they go with Elijah Lee there, and then Carlos Dunlap's a fine run defender. Kalen Saunders and Tershawn Wharton are more pass rushers than run defenders on the interior as well. Pass rush, I have them 20th. A decent unit. I think Karlaftis will probably be their most productive edge guy. And then you have Chris Jones, who's one of the best interior pass rushers in the game, has been overlooked because he's been put on the edge, and that's really not his natural position. I think they put Dunlap on the inside just because Dunlap's bigger, longer, and he can do it. He's done it in the past as well. And then they keep Frank Clark on the edge. Notable guys there, edge depth, Mike Dana, and then Kalen Saunders and Tershawn Wharton on the interior like we talked about. Linebackers, I have them 19th. I think they could be much higher, though, with the breakout of Leo Chenal. But Nick Bolton, Willie Gay are 2 young linebackers that are up and coming. They should be starters for years to come. Jermaine Carter Jr. as well, I kind of like as a run defender there. I think Mike Rose got cut, but he was an undrafted pickup by them. I think he's on their practice squad. That's a guy to keep an eye on. Was a a veteran leader at Iowa State and good run defender in his own right. Move on to the secondary, which is also ranked 19th. It's not a bad unit. There's just not that many stars. Trent McDuffie, I think, was an absolute stud. I think he was a top 12 player in this class. Can play outside corner, slot, safety, whatever you want him to do, he can play. I think he'll be their day one starting outside corner. L'Jarius Sneed, I think he's probably going to play the other outside because he's long, lengthy. But he's played in the slot and he's played some safety in the past. You got DeAndre Baker, former first-round pick, who I like better on the outside, but he can play in the slot as well. He's a talented player, just needs to keep his head on right. Rashad Fenton's a good dime guy. Lonnie Johnson, who they traded for from the Texans, has played slot. He's played safety, so another versatile player there. Justin Reed, I think, is probably the most underrated safety in football just because he played for the Texans and people didn't understand the plays that he was making with really no one in front of him. He's a very, very good player. I like Juan Thornhill there as well. Wasn't as high on Brian Cook. He's just kind of a fine player, but nice third safety to have there. And then defensive coaching, I have him at 5th. A lot of people forget that Steve Spagnuolo is one of the best defensive minds in the league. I think that you could make an argument he's top 3, but I have him at 5 right now. And then home field advantage, I have Kansas City at 1st. I mean, their home field is phenomenal. Arrowhead is probably the hardest place to play on the road, if not Seattle. So I have them at 1st there and an average rank on defense of 16.52 there for them. We move into their overall here. So they're the 4th best team overall with the number 1 offense and the number 19 defense. I have their special teams ranked 9th and culture ranked 2nd. I think Andy Reid is the 2nd best head coach in football, only to Bill Belichick there. And their average rank there is 7.85. We move into their strengths and weaknesses here. So their strengths, elite quarterback. Mahomes is just phenomenal, man. I can't say enough good things about him. Weapons, I think, is a strength of this team. A lot of people are really underrating this unit. I think is better than last year, honestly. They're a lot deeper. Last year, they really had Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce, and that was it. They have a lot more depth there at that position. Their O-line has become a really big strength as it was a weakness in 2020. They have really upgraded that. So with picks like Creed Humphrey, Trey Smith, pickups of, Orlando Brown and Joe Tooney, they've just revamped that O-line and it's helped them a lot. Helped them a lot last year. Weaknesses, running backs. They don't really have a bell cow running back that they can go to. Run defense is an issue along with pass rush. I just don't think they have the bodies up front to really make that much of an impact here. But that will wrap up my number 4 team in the Kansas City Chiefs. We move on to my number 3 team here, who had an absolutely epic battle with the Kansas City Chiefs in the playoffs, and it is the Buffalo Bills coming in at number 3. I know they're ranked 3. I originally had them at 1. There was a couple adjustments that I made to their defense that lowered them. But I want you to know that this team is my Super Bowl favorite, even though they're coming in here at number 3. I think that they are probably the best. I have them as the 3rd best roster, but you can make an argument that they are the best, and I personally would have them as my Super Bowl pick, spoiler alert. So we move into the key departures and additions here. Starting with the key departures, Brian Daboll, their longtime offensive coordinator, has to be the head coach of the Giants. Very well deserved. Should have probably gotten the job a couple of years earlier, but nonetheless, congratulations to Brian Daboll. They lose Cole Beasley and Emmanuel Sanders, 2 veteran receivers there. Darrell Williams at tackle, Cody Ford, John Feliciano on the interior. Jerry Hughes, Mario Addis on the edge, both head to Houston. Harrison Phillips on the interior heads to Minnesota, one of the best run defending nose tackles in the game. And then Levi Wallace, longtime starter at corner, heads to Pittsburgh. So addition-wise, Ken Dorsey is promoted to the offensive coordinator. They draft James Cook in the 2nd round, the younger brother of Dalvin Cook. They bring in Jamison Crowder to replace Cole Beasley at the slot. They bring in Khalil Shakir as kind of their own mini Deebo Samuel type. Very high on Khalil Shakir. Can't believe he was like 4th round or whatever when he got drafted. Bring in David Kesenberry, Greg Van Roten as veteran depth offensive line. Roger Saffold to start at guard. They bring in Von Miller, which was their biggest get and probably their biggest need in number 1 pass rusher. And they bring in Daquan Jones and Tim Settle to fortify that interior, and then Trey White coming back off injury, and they draft Kyer Elam in the first round, a guy that I was very high on coming out of Florida. So we move into the offense here, which is ranked 5th for me. Starting with the quarterback position, I have Josh Allen ranked 3rd. It was really hard for me between Brady and Allen. I think it's like two polar opposites, right? Josh Allen is just athletic freak, and his arm is one of one in my opinion. I don't think it's particularly close. What he did against the Patriots in the game where there was like 50-mile-an-hour winds and he's throwing it through them like 30, 40 yards is absolutely ridiculous. And then Brady is more like the mental side of the game where it's his processing is absolutely elite, and he has shown improvement to arm strength. He throws the ball, further, deeper, and, with more velocity than he has in his entire career. And he's the best to ever do it at the line of scrimmage. It's just kind of, at this point, more projection-based that I think Allen will pass up Brady by the end of the season. So, we'll see if that really, becomes true. Who knows? And then Case Keenum and Matt Barkley there for veteran backups. Running backs, I have them as the worst. And I'm not a Devin Singletary fan. He just really hasn't done anything to impress me, honestly. Zach Moss has just been buried on that depth chart. I don't really know why, because I think he has the best opportunity here to be like the bell cow back. James Cook, I think, could take over as RB1 after week 6 or 7. Just his receiving upside is there. He's kind of better, probably like Austin Eckler is probably a good comparison for him. Miles Sanders, that type stuff. And then we got Duke Johnson here as another veteran receiving back as well. When we move on to their weapons, which I have ranked 3rd, this is a phenomenal group of weapons. Stephon Diggs, I think, is a top 5 receiver in football. One of the best route runners in the game. Underrated speed and some of the best hands in the game. Gabriel Davis, I knew when the Bills got him, I think it was the 3rd round at UCF, I was like, they got to steal, man. Gabriel Davis is primed for a huge season. I think probably Pro Bowl I would bet for Gabriel Davis here. They bring in Jamison Crowder, who's one of those veteran pieces here. Played a lot of football, one of the best slot receivers in the game. You just hope he can stay healthy. But if not, you got 2 guys behind him that are really dynamic playmakers in Isaiah McKenzie and Khalil Shakir. Shakir's faster with the ball in his hands, more of like a gadgety type player, whereas McKenzie's actually a really good route runner and really was a pivotal part of this offense late in the season there. Nothing really of note for depth after that, but tight end wise, Dawson Knox, good solid tight end, chain mover, another piece that they have in this offense. Behind him, Tommy Sweeney is kind of a more blocking type. Their O-line's ranked 20th. It's not the best unit in the world here. Deion Dawkins is probably one of the more underrated tackles in the league. He's probably top half in that department. I really like Roger Saffold. Mitch Morris is another underrated guy. But then they got 2 young guys in Ryan Bates and Spencer Brown that we just don't really know about there. Hoping that those guys will be solid additions to the O-line, but you never know. And then for depth-wise, you got David Kesenberry. You got Bobby Hart on the tackle. And on the guard center side, you got Ike Boatger, I think is how you say it, and Greg Mance. And then offense coaching-wise, they're 18th. Big loss in Brian Daboll there. If they had Brian Daboll, I think they'd be top 5. But Ken Dorsey is a fine, OC. They have Joe Brady on the staff as well, who I actually probably would have preferred as their OC, but they come in at an average rank of 10.72. We move on to the Bills' defense, which comes in at tied for 9th overall here. Starting with the run defense at 16th overall. A name to watch out for, man, is Gregory Rousseau. I think he's going to have an absolutely fantastic season. Former first-round pick out of Miami, was the guy I wanted the Patriots to draft at the 15th overall pick. He has tremendous pass rush upside as well, but he was a phenomenal run defender day one and will continue to be. Ed Oliver's a decent run defender. I mean, nothing super special. He was a guy that was so hyped up, and he just really hasn't lived up to that. Daquan Jones, solid veteran run defender. Von Miller's a fine run defender. He's not elite by any standards or great by any standards, but he's a fine run defender. Matt Milano is a good run defender, good sideline to sideline, can take on blocks. Tremaine Edmonds, more of that run and chase type guy. And then Tyrell Dodson's there. Notable edge depth here, you got Boogie Basham, AJ Epinesa, and Shaq Lawson. And then on the IDL, keep an eye on Tim Settle and Jordan Phillips. Both those guys more pass rush, I'd say, than run defender, but Settle's the better run defender of the two. And Phillips was probably the most productive interior pass rusher for the Cardinals last season. Linebacker-wise, they just drafted Terrell Bernard super, super early in like the second round. Wasn't really a fan of him, but he's there. And then Balin Spector as well in the 7th round from Clemson will make more of an impact in the run game. Pass rush-wise, I have the Buffalo Bills at 19th. Yes, they did get their one in Von Miller, but they don't have much else besides that. Ed Oliver is good, not great, and Tim Settle's a good pass rusher as well. Rousseau, I'm expecting to take a big leap, hopefully, and then, they've got decent depth behind them, but they just really have Von Miller, and that's it for right now. Moving on to their linebackers, I have them ranked 15th. Solid group of linebackers here. Matt Milano, really, really good linebacker. Tremaine Edmonds is, we're hoping to see him break out. We've been waiting. He came into the league, I think he was like 17 or 18 when he came into the league. He's still only like 22, I think. So, you hope that he can, finally be that super hyped up linebacker prospect that we thought he was. And then obviously you got Tyrell Dodson there, who's fine. Terrell Bernard is more of that, JOK type player. And then Balin Spector is just a run defender. Secondary-wise, they're ranked 8th. Very good secondary. They're going to miss Trey White for part of the season, but he is, a phenomenal man cover corner. Kyrie Elam, same thing. I didn't really understand the Kyrie Elam slander when he came out because he's long, lengthy press corner and stuck like glue in man coverage, and I was like, he's going in the first round, and it just happened to be to the Buffalo Bills. Teron Johnson, one of the best slot corners in the game, and then Saron Neal and Dane Jackson will fill in on the outside. And then the dime for before and after Tre'Davious White comes back. Then Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer, one of the best safety duos in the league. They just make plays, man, and they are phenomenal at that. Micah Hyde, more of your rangy free safety type, whereas Poyer's in the box, matchup against tight ends type guy. Don't really have much behind them, though, and they both are injury-prone, so that is something to keep an eye on. Defensive coaching, I have the Bills ranked 6th, as Leslie Frazier is another one of those veteran defensive minds in the game that is phenomenal at what he does. And then for home field advantage, I have them ranked 18th with an average ranking of 12.34. We move on to the overall team here. Overall-wise, they are the 3rd best team in my power rankings here with the 5th best offense, tied for 9th best defense, 4th best special teams, and 6th best culture. I think Sean McDermott, when you talk about best coaches in the league, his name doesn't get brought up enough, and what he's done to not only develop Josh Allen, but really make this team a powerhouse is something that should be talked about more often, in my opinion, as they finish with an average rank there of 6.50. But we move on to their strengths and weaknesses here. Again, elite quarterback. Josh Allen is one of the best in the game. Weapons, top 3 unit of weapons in the league, in my opinion. And then secondary, very, very big strength, especially when Tre'Davious White comes back. Weaknesses, I have running backs. They just have a lack of a bell cow running back, and I think that the Bills, even though I loved the Kyrie Elam pick when they took him in the first round, Breece Hall was sitting there, man, and honestly, he probably would have been better for them, now and in the long run than like a Kyrie Elam. O-line, I think, is a weakness. One of the weaknesses of this offense, I think that it's their, worst unit on offense besides the running backs. They just don't really have a standout player there. And then I had run defense. We'll see how good or bad their run defense is. I think that's probably the weakest part of their defense, which is why I put it in there. But that will wrap up my number 3 team of my power rankings of the Buffalo Bills. We move on to my number 2 team, a team that has disappointed year after year after year. And people are probably wondering why this team is so high. So let's get into it. It is my number 2 team for my power rankings. Here's the Green Bay Packers. We get into their key departures and additions here. Departing is Nathaniel Hackett, their OC, who heads to be the head coach of the Broncos. Devontae Adams, who they traded to the Las Vegas Raiders, did not want to be a part of this team anymore, which was an interesting development. at the time. Marquez Valdez-Scantling heads to Kansas City. Lucas Patrick heads to, I think he's also in, oh no, he's in Chicago, I think. Yeah, he's in Chicago starting there, and then Zadarius Smith heads to rival Minnesota Vikings. They bring in Sammy Watkins here over from the Baltimore Ravens, the veteran receiver. They draft Christian Watson and Romeo Dubes. They finally draft receivers, Packers fans. They finally do it. It's been a long time coming, and two great picks in my opinion. Robert Tonyan at tight end there, coming back from injury. David Bakhtiari coming back from injury as well. You hope he's healthy along with Elton Jenkins so that O-line can be one of the best units in the league. Zach Tom they drafted, one of the biggest steals of the draft. Really good pick from Brian Gutekunst. Devontae Wyatt in the first round. I didn't hate this pick at all. I thought it was a really good pick. Packers fans were just underwhelmed by it because of the fact that it wasn't a receiver. And then Quay Walker, which I hated. I thought it was probably the second worst pick in the draft. And I made this statement in my first round draft grades video where it was they traded the pick. They got the pick from Vegas in the Devontae Adams trade, and Vegas was known for taking players that played in the national championship game that were third-round prospects and taking them in the first round, and that's exactly what the Packers did. I think Quay Walker can be a fine player in the NFL, but just a waste of first-round pick on him was just stupid by the Packers. So then we move into their offense here, which I have ranked 6th. It's a very good offensive unit, starting with the best quarterback in the league, in my opinion. Back-to-back MVP Aaron Rodgers. I'm not for the Rodgers shenanigans that he pulls, but on the field, objectively, he is the best in the game, in my opinion. Although I don't think he's anywhere near the GOAT conversation, which I've been seeing fly around on Twitter. Like, we need to stop this. This man is nowhere near Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, Joe Montana, Johnny Unitas, Dan Marino. Like, he's not in the same boat. But he is one of the best. And then Jordan Love sitting there. I wonder when he's going to get out his opportunity. I think he was a little bit underwhelming in the preseason, but people slandering him for the start at Kansas City, you got to remember, he's a rookie. He went to Utah State, so he didn't play in like that many like big games, right? And he's going to Arrowhead for his first game. And I don't think he had Devontae Adams. Is that right? I don't think he had Devontae Adams, and Dave Bakhtiari was out, and so was Elton Jenkins. So he had like 2 backup tackles starting, and the best receiver in the league was out. I think he was out for that game, but I can't remember. So, and he was running for his life. And I honestly don't think it was that terrible from Jordan Love. I just wonder when he's going to get an opportunity, because I thought he was the second best quarterback in that draft, ahead of Herbert, I know, L-Take, and Tua. So we'll see. I certainly think he could be a better quarterback than Tua right now, honestly, if you put him on the Miami Dolphins. But then we move to the running backs here, which I have ranked 8th. Really nice duo in Aaron Jones, who's more of your, elusive type back, pass catcher, and then A.J. Dillon, who's like your power back, goal line, short yardage guy. And then Kylan Hill there as well, another guy that, when they took him, I was like, why did they just like keep Dillon and Kylan? And then if they were planning on drafting a running back late, why did you pay Aaron Jones, and why did you not pay Corey Linsley? And then why didn't you just have A.J. Dillon and Kylan Hill, who can make up 90% of what Aaron Jones does, in my opinion? But the Packers are the Packers, so you can't really change your mind. Moving on to the weapons, this is the worst part of this offense. They just 30th. I mean, these weapons are not great. Sammy Watkins is your wide receiver 1. I have a soft spot for Sammy Watkins. I loved him at Clemson. I thought he was just going to be like the next Julio Jones. Obviously, he's not that, but I really do love Sammy Watkins. I think he's, kind of carved out a career for him at this point. Been a solid veteran receiver now for, many years. But, hopefully he can stay healthy and be productive here. Christian Watson, another guy that I think was getting slandered in the draft process. He had a really high drop rate, but North Dakota State was also a very run-heavy team, and he didn't get as many opportunities as guys like Chris Olave and, Garrett Wilson, Drake London, that type of stuff. But, I mean, he just, he's a very good player. He's a long, lengthy dude. Really fast guy, deep threat from day one. Probably going to be their receiver 4 to start out with. I think it's going to be Watkins, Lazard, and Randall Cobb. Speaking of Alan Lazard, I feel like he's overhated. Like, he's objectively probably receiver 4 on a really good team, but he does have an opportunity here to somewhat break out. I think that he's not a great route runner at all, or, sometimes he, drops a lot of passes, but I think that he can be like a solid receiver for them. Nonetheless, I'm not like going out on a limb and saying, oh, like Allen Lazard, top 32 receiver next season. No, I don't think he's even close, but I think he can be productive here for him, maybe 1,000 yards. Randall Cobb, the veteran slot receiver here, been with Rodgers for many years. Went to Dallas, went to Houston, and now is back here. So it's good to see Randall Cobb back in a Packers uniform. Romeo Doubs is one of my favorite players in this draft out of Nevada. Definitely a steal in the 4th round there. And he looks the part, man. He looks like, the Terry McLaurins of the world. I'm trying to think of just like late round receivers that kind of popped off. Darnell Mooney, like he looks to be one of those breakout guys. And then sitting on the bench here, you got Amari Rodgers, who 3rd round pick is whatever. Maybe he sees the field. I don't know. He's probably going to be Cobb's replacement eventually. And then at tight end, Robert Tonyan, solid receiving guy. Not much of a blocker there, but he's solid. Mercedes Lewis, the old veteran, and then Josiah DeGuara, who's more of your like fullback type lead blocker guy. Green Bay Packers O-line ranks 15 for me. David Bakhtiari is the best pass-blocking left tackle in the league, in my opinion. John Runyon is a nice up-and-coming guard who's a very good run blocker. Josh Myers, I think, is a breakout candidate this year for the Packers there at center. I did slander this pick when they took him ahead of Creed Humphrey, but he is a solid player nonetheless. Sean Ryan, nice pick up there from UCLA, going to start at guard. And then Elton Jenkins, one of the most underrated right tackles in football. Zach Tom, Josh Nijman at tackle depth there, and then Jake Hansen, Royce Newman at guard depth. Offensive coaching, I have them 4th. Matt LaFleur, one of the best young minds in the league. I only have him behind Andy Reid, Sean McVay, and Kyle Shanahan, so that's pretty good company there. Average rank on offense for the Packers is 11.5. We move into their defense, which I think is the 2nd best defense in football. The only defense that hasn't been revealed as number 1, which is next. So, one of the best defensive units in the league, starting with their run defense, which is number 6 in the league here. You got Kenny Clark, Mahler in the middle there with Devontae Wyatt and Jerron Reed. That is going to be a nasty trio of interior defenders there. All of them are very good run defenders, really good block shedders, and they will eat up your team's running backs. Preston Smith, Rashawn Gary are, they're fine run defenders, both hustlers. We're going to get to Rashawn Gary here in a minute. We'll come back to him. Devondre Campbell's a decent run defender. He showed really, huge improvement last year, kind of just out of the middle of nowhere. He was kind of like a rotational player, and then all of a sudden he was an all-pro on the Packers, which was crazy. Quay Walker's a very good run defender, thumper-type guy, able to take on blocks, very good block shedder. Chris Barnes there as well, another linebacker to keep an eye on there. In terms of edge depth, you got Kingsley Enagbare, one of the most overrated players in the draft, went where he should have in the 5th round. Jonathan Garvin there as well. And then on the inside, you got Dean Lowry, TJ Slayton. Not much there at linebacker depth. Then pass rush, I have them 3rd, one of the best pass rush units in the league. And we start with Rashawn Gary, who wasn't on the NFL Top 100 players list, officially makes him probably the most underrated player in football. I mean, Rashawn Gary is a freaking beast. Speed to power, his rip move is crazy, his hump move is crazy, his ability to just get to the quarterback, pressure the quarterback is phenomenal. And I don't know what it is about, like, athletic freaks in the 1st round, just like that didn't produce in college, getting slandered on. It happened to Jalen Phillips, it happened to Greg Rousseau, Kwity Paye, Josh Uche, and Rashawn Gary, and it's like, I don't understand it. Rashawn Gary is one of the best edge rushers in football, and you can't tell me otherwise. He's probably top 10 in my opinion. Kenny Clark, very good pass rusher there on the interior. Devontae Wyatt as well will help push that pocket. And Preston Smith's a solid, number 2 in his own right. Kingsley Enagbare, Jerron Reed, Dean Lowry, guys to keep an eye on there. Linebacker-wise, they're 12th. This is their lowest spot on defense here. It's a good unit. Devondre Campbell broke out onto the scene last year. Really nice to see, a veteran who's been in the league for a while break out. Very, very good coverage instincts really showed last year. Quay Walker, you guys know how I feel about Quay Walker, but I do think he can be a good player in this league. And then Chris Barnes, I feel like is also one of the most underrated players in the league. Guy that's not talked about enough on the rise there. Moving on to the secondary, it's 6th. And, this team really missed Jair Alexander last year. Jair Alexander to me is right there with Jalen Ramsey as one of the best corners in the game. Absolute just shut down man corner. He doesn't get the stats of Ramsey or JC Jackson because in just like, pure volume, but he's still one of the best in the game, in my opinion. Eric Stokes is a guy that I slandered when they took him, but he really looks like he's the real deal, man. He is long, lengthy, really good in press, and was money for them last year with Jair Alexander out. So you got potential 2 number 1 guys there. Rasul Douglas was a nice veteran resurgence here, another one along with Devondre Campbell. And he just came in and just was like an interception machine for the Packers. So they're glad to get him back here. And then depth-wise, they don't really have anything behind them. Shamar John Charles, Keyshawn Dixon, whatever. Safety-wise here, Darnell Savage, very, very good free safety. Rangy dude, good ball skills. And then Adrian Amos is one of the best strong safeties in the league. Tight end eraser. Just absolute beast. Can't believe that the Bears let him go after he had that amazing season there. Then Sean Davis is a decent safety 3 there. Defensive coaching wise, they are 9th, as Joe Barry is one of the best DCs in the game. Home field advantage, they are 3rd, and average rank there for the Packers is 6.18. We move into their overall team here, where they are the 2nd best overall team with the 6th best offense, 2nd best defense, 24th for special teams, and 9th for culture. I think Matt LaFleur is a good coach. He just hasn't been able to win those big games when need be, albeit I don't think it's all his fault, but I think he does have something to do with it. Average rank there overall for 5.95. As we move into the Packers' strengths and weaknesses here, starting with their strengths, obviously elite quarterback play, as Aaron Rodgers is one of the best in the game. Coaching as well, one of the best coached teams in the game. Defense is a strength. They got the 2nd best defense in football. Weaknesses, weapons, O-line health. Weapons, we know they're one of the worst in the league. No true number 1 receiver on that team. And O-line health, Bakhtiari, Elton Jenkins missed most of the season last year, so you hope that they can stay healthy. And then special teams, which has been the Achilles heel of this team forever. So that wraps up my number 2 team in the Green Bay Packers. We move on to my number 1 team here, the final team to be revealed for my power rankings. And no, it's not bias at all, but the Tampa Bay Buccaneers come in here at number 1 with Tom Brady, the GOAT, and that really, really phenomenal defense you have here. So we head into their key departures and additions. Bruce Arians retires as head coach. He goes into the front office there. They lose Rojo as their 2nd running back to the Chiefs. I don't even know if he's on their team now. Tyler Johnson gets cut. Guy I really liked coming out of Minnesota. Thought was a really good route runner, but he just seems, from watching the tape, he just hasn't been in the right place at the right time recently. And we got Rob Gronkowski here at tight end, retiring for the 2nd time. Then on the offensive line, they lose Ali Marpet, who retires as well. Alex Kappa heads to Cincinnati. And then Ryan Jensen, I think, is going to be lost for the year with injury. Then they lose some veterans on the defense with Jason Pierre-Paul and Ndamukong Suh. And then Jordan Whitehead heads over to the Jets. They bring in Rashad White, really solid running back at Arizona State. Bring in Russell Gage and Julio Jones, 2 new targets for Brady to throw to, along with Cade Otton from Washington there. They trade for Shaq Mason from the Patriots. I don't understand why the Patriots gave him up to this day. They were just giving Tom Brady a bone, I guess. Draft Luke Goedeke from Central Michigan there as a solid guy that can play both guard and tackle. Sign Carl Nass, veteran edge defender. Akeem Hicks, veteran interior defender. They draft Logan Hall from Houston, and then they bring in Logan Ryan, Brady's former Patriot teammate. We move into their offense here, which is ranked 3rd, starting with the 4th best quarterback in the league, in my opinion. I think he's probably 3rd right now, but I think he'll finish the year 4th in Tom Brady, the GOAT. I don't really need to say anything else about him. Tom Brady is my favorite player of all time. Fantastic quarterback. Wish nothing for the best for him, but I'm still a Patriots fan. Don't forget that. Blaine Gabbert, veteran behind him in the backup, and then Kyle Trask, 2nd-round pick last year from Florida. Moving to the running backs, who's ranked 25th. They're a fine group of running backs. I mean, Leonard Fournette, really improved his receiving skills here with Brady. Yeah, I think he's a fine running back. Rashad White will be a decent change of pace back, and then you got Giovanni Bernard and Keyshawn Vaughn there as your receiving backs. Moving to the weapons, which I deem the best in the league, and starting with Mike Evans, who he's kind of a polarizing player. I think a lot of people think that Mike Evans is one of the best receivers in football, and he is so. He's uber consistent, 1,000 yards every year, double-digit touchdowns most of the time. He's really good in the back shoulder game, really good in those 50-50 balls. He's a phenomenal player in this league. And then you got Chris Godwin, route running specialist, really good hands. I think that Godwin, on a different type of team could be looked at like DJ Moore, like Terry McLaurin as kind of one of those guys, underrated receiver one. Russell Gage was really productive last year for the Atlanta Falcons, being one of the only targets that Matt Ryan could throw to. Then you got Julio Jones, who is one of the best receivers of all time. I think he's probably top 5 all time, maybe top 3. Just an absolute athletic freak, and I think they will use him sparingly to start the season with. I think they'll use him when the matchup is right for him so that they can keep him healthy for that playoff push. And then Brashad Perriman is a nice veteran player there, really good speed, deep threat as well. Former first-round pick at UCF. Then you got Scotty Miller and Jalen Darden, two young guys with promising futures there. Jalen Darden, I thought, was the most underrated player in last year's draft class. I thought it was an absolute steal. Just a phenomenal, route runner coming out of North Texas. He's going to be a player in this league time soon. And then in terms of tight ends, you got Cam Brate, you got Kyle Rudolph and Cade Otton, who are all similar red zone type players there. Then you got the O-line that's ranked 9th, taking a hit with that injury to Ryan Jensen there at center. And I think Hainsey got hurt as well, so I think Stinney might start at center. But Tristan Wirfs at right tackle, one of the best right tackles in football, just an absolute athletic freak, and dude doesn't give up sacks. Shaq Mason, one of the best run-blocking guards in the game. Dude's an absolute mauler. When he gets his mitts on you, you're not getting on him. Luke Goedeke, a young, promising rookie, and then Donovan Smith has really, right before Brady got there, they talked about getting him and him being like the weakest guy on the O-line, but since then he's been really good, honestly. He's been, really kind of changing the narrative of him there as well. Offensive coaching-wise, they're 20th. I think Byron Leftwich is a, solid OC, but, I think he needs to prove more. Probably when Brady retires, he'll be able to prove more there. Average rank on offense there of 8.29 for them. We move into their defense, which I deem the best in the NFL here, starting with the best run defense in the NFL. Joe Tryon-Shoyinka, solid run defender, able to get off blocks and, be, a hustle player there. Shaq Barrett's probably their worst guy, run defender up front. He's a smaller guy, more of a pass rush specialist. But then you got Akeem Hicks, William Golston, and Vita Vea. These dudes specialize in stopping the run. The Bucs have had consistently the best run defense for the last 2 years, and that will continue. Levante David's a really good run defender. I think people kind of underrate him for that as they really, see his coverage, kind of what he did to Travis Kelce, but he is special there. Devin White, sideline dude, he's always around the ball, and he will talk to you. He will let you know that he's always around the ball, and then KJ Britt there is a third linebacker. Looking at edge depth here, Carl Nassib's, and Anthony Nelson are decent players. Logan Hall, the rookie from Houston, a guy to keep an eye on. Rakeem Nunez-Roches is a good player as well. Deidre Sanat, Patrick O'Connor. And then for linebacker depth, you got Grant Stewart and Olakunle Fadukasi there as well. Pass rush, I have them ranked 6th. I don't think they're the best in the league, but I do think they're very good. Shaq Barrett, phenomenal pass rusher, one of the best in the game. Joe Tryon-Shoyinka, I think, will have a, better season. Will continue to grow as he gets full-time reps here with JPP out the door. And then Vita Vea, really solid pocket pushing guy, along with Akeem Hicks there as well. Excuse me. Moving to the linebackers, I have them at 3rd. That combo of Levante David and Devin White is probably the best 1-2 in the league. They just don't really have that third guy there with them to really propel them over, but those guys are phenomenal, man. Levante David's more the coverage specialist, and Devin White's more the run defense specialist. Those guys complement each other very, very well there. And then we move into the secondary here, which is ranked 7th. It's a phenomenal unit. Carlton Davis, one of the best corners in the game. Really, really good in man coverage there. Sean Murphy-Bunting, I think, is probably... I could argue he's the best corner on this team. I think people were really underrating him after he got hurt in week 1, but he's a phenomenal player, man. I love his length, and his instincts are really good. Jamel Dean there, solid slot corner. I think that he's kind of fallen off since his rookie year, but Still a solid player. Zion McCollum, probably the steal of the draft for the Bucks. Just an absolute beast out of was it Sam Houston State, I think? But he's a freak, man, and he tested very, very well as well. Not much depth after them there, but Antoine Winfield, I think, will establish himself as a top 3 safety this year. Dude has really good ball skills, very good range, really good in coverage as well, and hits people in the run game. Logan Ryan there has played outside corner, slot corner, strong safety now. He's, going to be very good in that role as a veteran there. Keanu Neal can play linebacker or safety, and then Mike Edwards as well. He's been a solid rotational safety for them when guys get hurt. Defensive coaching, I have them 4th. Todd Bowles, one of the best in the game. And then home field advantage, I have them 10th. Average rank on defense is 5.22. We move into their overall here. They're my best team in my power rankings at number 1 with the 3rd best offense, 1st best defense, 15th best special teams, and then 17th for culture. Todd Bowles, I think, definitely deserved a second chance as head coach, but he's just got to prove that he can be better than his first regime in the Jets. Average rank there overall is a 5.00. We move into their strengths and weaknesses here. I have them as elite quarterback. Tom Brady, GOAT, nothing else to say there. Weapons, best in the game, nothing else to say there. Front 7, absolute just wrecking balls there up front. Weaknesses, I have the run game. We'll see how good their run game can be this year. It hasn't been great in the past. O-line health with, Ryan Jensen going down. That's, big question mark there. And then offensive coaching, I think, could be considered a weakness. I don't think Byron Leftwich is a bad coach, but it's just really hard to pick a weakness for this team, and I have that as one of their lower-rated things there. But that wraps up my off-season power rankings here heading into Week 1. We are just 2 days away from when I'm recording this to Week 1, so I'm very, very excited. Tomorrow, I'm going to have a list of my top 10 breakouts, and then I will have probably my season predictions coming out. So playoffs, everything, we'll have our full season predictions there. So, get ready for that. And then I think Thursday we'll have kind of a season preview game picks. I think I'm going to record that on Wednesday night as well. Might have a guest on that this week. If not, next week we will. But thanks for watching, everybody. I really appreciate the support on this series. And I'm excited to get back into content making full-time throughout the season. I will drop my schedule probably in the next video of what I'm planning on doing throughout the weeks of the season here. But again, thanks for watching, everybody. I really appreciate it, and have a great day, and peace.